Welcome. This is Mary Fish with Stampin' Pretty and StampinPretty.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and that means that I sell the products on my blog, StampinPretty.com. You can shop 24/7 online. I also share daily tips for paper crafting, the latest Stampin' Up! Promotions, projects, free PDFs. Stop by. If you subscribe to my blog and my newsletter, you'll receive a free PDF exclusive when you do so. So let's get started. It's kind of a cool day in Tucson today and a little rainy, and I thought let's just keep it simple today. We're going to do a simple card and we're going to stamp together. So this is the card that I chose. I shared it on my post. StampinPretty.com is my blog. It has the Hanging Garden stamp set from Stampin' Up. You might be getting a little bit of reflection. I'm going to just move it around slowly so you can see all those cute hanging baskets. And I love this beautiful font that's very, very versatile. This is actually a hang in there or an encouragement card. I'm sure you're thinking there are many ways that you can take advantage of a card like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with some stamping. I have my Stamparatus. Some of you reserved these. It will be available in the Stampin' Up! Annual catalog on June 1st of 2018. It's a stamp placement tool. It makes my life so much easier when it comes to stamping and more consistent results. I know you might be getting a little reflection, but I need some of that to get the lighting. I've placed the stamp on this side, and I'm going to use some Night of Navy ink. I personally prefer ink spots for doing this because they're a little easier to control and see where you're stamping. But I'm going to use this one for now and hope that I've done a good enough job. And then I have a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to push down on it. I do the same thing if I have a clear block. And I think of the Stamparatus essentially like my clear block, but I only need the one, right? The other thing that happens when I do use this stamp on a clear block, which is part of the reason I switched to the Stamparatus, is because oftentimes this little stem will rock a little bit, and I'll get a smear, and then I get all frustrated, and I'm sure some of you are saying, oh, that happens to me as well. So we've got a little more stamping to do. If I look at the card, and I use this to cheat, I am going to use it to stamp the hang in there. Again, that is also from the same stamp set called Hanging Garden. And I like to mount my sentiments on the diagonal. I find when I go this direction, there's a little bit more of a prism effect and it makes it harder to see. So that's just my preference. And I'm just inking it up again with some Night of Navy ink. I want to make sure this is even. And then definitely want to check and make sure you have it not upside down like I just noticed I did. And I'm just going to eyeball this and just make sure I've got it covered. There we go. Sometimes when I'm on a video, I deep down say, whew, that one worked out well, right? And then I'm going to let that dry just a little bit. So it doesn't smear, and I'm going to go back to the basket, and I'm going to use one of my everyday favorites in two ways to put this one together. I'm starting with the Stitched Shapes Framelits dies. They have ovals and circles and squares, and they have this incredibly distinctive edging when you use the dies. I've already pre-cut the oval. You can see again, isn't that stitching cute? This is Night of Navy. And then it gets only better that the Stampin' Up! Ovals, squares, and circles coordinate. These are the layering ovals. We also have layering circles and layering squares. And these work as well. I'm actually going to bring this one back so I can be sure I grab the right size. We have so many different little sizes. And that's the right one that I used previously. And I'm going to grab my Big Shot. I have my magnetic platform. I have a very scratched up but still usable because it's flat acrylic plate or cutting plate. And I use the magnetic platform to help me keep things in place. And then I'm going to actually cut this so that I have a little more, I'm going to call it hang time. I didn't stamp that totally square. Oh, yes, I did. So I'm just kind of cutting off a little bit from the top so that it will feel like it's hanging. But it's fine. I thought I was, oh, maybe I'm off a little bit. I'm just going to turn it a little so that this line is what I'm using kind of as my anchor in all of this. And then I'm going to put another cutting plate on top. Double checking before I run it through my Big Shot. I'm a huge fan of the Big Shot because it always works. I don't need a plug or electricity, and I don't need a learning curve. I know there's some cool technology pieces out there, but I just like the control I get with the Big Shot. So that's what we have, a perfect little oval that will nest perfectly on this oval, which is the stitched shape. We're going to add a few dimensionals to the back side. You can add as many as you want. I tend to like to do about 4 so that I don't get sort of a sag in the middle. I used to call it the droopy diaper effect when you had not enough Stampin' dimensionals and you had sort of a sag. Little tip for you, if you punch down with your nail, you can pop those up a little bit easier, or you may have your own method. And I'm going to lean in a little bit. See how perfectly that layers into that? And I'm going to pop that on there. Then we're going to take a little of our solid white baker's twine, and I'm going to wrap it around. You can see how I did it there. And little tip, to keep this in place, I cut with a heavy-duty set of scissors. I still have my Stampin' Up! Craft scissors. I just cut a little notch there so that I can bring this in and keep this from fraying, or that's just me. I don't like stuff dangling and hanging. And I'm going to use that. Just going to make sure I cut enough. I tend to be fairly generous on how much I use, because on a video, you want to just make sure you don't leave yourself short. Let me move this down for you so you can see what I'm up to. And I'm just going to go ahead and tie the baker's twine. Oh, you know what? There's one more step. I want to layer this quick onto the Night of Navy. I just realized I did the baker's twine all the way around. You could really do either, but since I'm trying to replicate this card for you, I will follow the rules. That's snail. I know there are many adhesives out there. I am just a die-hard snail person. And I'm on my tippy toes just doing my best to kind of make sure all the sides are fairly even. And that looks good. And then burnish, okay? Burnishing is what makes snail really work. And then you won't have those little, I call them wardrobe failures, if something should go awry. So I still have plenty here. Glad I cut that when I did. And I'm going to just sort of bop it right here. And I'll show you a way I kind of cheat on the back side. Okay, so that's a little bit loose, and that happens often. I'm just going to pull it a little smaller. And I'm going to bring my ends down. I kind of like them going down. Some days I like one going one direction up and the other one going down. But you'll see I've got a little looseness here, so you can just go to the back side. You can either cut it and tape it tighter, or I just use this and nobody knows you've got that little loop in there, and you've got this nice, clean, pretty little knot. And then I'm going to go ahead. I always move these around a little bit. I'm sure you're saying, yes, I do too. And these are scissors that are like golden to me. They're just a nice sharp pair of scissors. Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell them anymore, but you can get a nice sharp pair. But I strongly recommend that you dedicate them to ribbon. Then they'll stay sharper longer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually add adhesive and add this to my card base. So put a little in there. And I'm going to, again, layer this on. I'm on my tippy toes again, just doing my best. I'm coming in from an angle, but I'm doing the best I can to get it centered and even all the way around. And everybody has their method. Again, a little burnish. And then I already put a couple of dimensionals on the back side of this. You can add more than this if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to use from top to bottom an equal distance from the top to the bottom to the oval. Just pretty symmetrical. And just lay it down. Oh, and of course it moved on me. You'd probably laugh if you saw me right now because I'm on my tippy toes. So there you go. Here's the two versions and the one that we did together. Just to repeat, I want to make sure you know that this was the Hanging Garden stamp set. That's really the key to all of this. It would look equally beautiful in an entirely different color. You could certainly do black. That's very close to Night of Navy. But consider things like Berry Burst or even a blue, a beautiful Island Indigo would be just gorgeous. Just something that's rich and looks really crisp with white. Thank you for joining me. I love your comments. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions or would just like to give me some feedback. Stop on my blog, stampinpretty.com, and sign up for my newsletter and my daily blog updates. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today. I hope you learned a little something new. Bye-bye.